Hello, and thank you for joining us. Our company's name is AirSafe Incorporated, and the goal of our company is to bring innovative safety solutions to the aviation industry. My name is Brink Wolak.
And I'm Cynthia Chockalingam. And the essential idea of our product is a way when we're increasing safety in the skies, it's very similar to what we're doing the status quo on the ground, where we essentially just have seatbelts. If we end up in a crash, we have a seatbelt keeping us safe. Well, sometimes in the air, we don't think it's as necessary to keep ourselves fastened. But that's why air attendants always have to be walking up and down the aisles to make sure we're safe. But with our product today, we're making sure that essentially, kind of like how in a car, we know when we don't have our seatbelts fastened, the same thing happens in the sky too. By using Bluetooth technology, personnel on the flight will be able to see when we don't have our seatbelts fastened, increasing the safety for everyone on the flight. And that's where we look specifically at our problems and solutions that we've pinpointed today. So the first problem is passengers are disrupted to check for seatbelts. Now, why is that such a problem? We all know the hassle of when we're in the air, and maybe if you've flown before, but right before we're landing, if you're taking a nap and someone comes by and has to wake you up to make sure you have your seatbelt fastened. Well, with our product, you no longer have to disturb passengers because they have an internal seatbelt sensors to make sure that you have your seatbelt fastened. The only reason you're going to get woken up in the future is if you don't have it fastened and it's going to disrupt the flight in order for you to turn it back on, but that's only for your own safety. The second problem is the process of checking for fastened seatbelts is time consuming. When we see flight attendants having to walk up and down the aisles for minutes, trying to check each individual passenger to make sure that they have their seatbelt fastened, this will then decrease standby time with our own product because now you no longer have to be waiting in the air just to land until everyone has been thoroughly checked to have their seatbelt fastened. Therefore, flights will also be saving their own money on their airlines because they no longer have to spend as much gas and everything just waiting in the air to make sure everyone is safe. And the final main problem we have pinpointed is passengers do not always follow instructions pertaining to seatbelts. We all know the person who didn't have their seatbelt fastened in the car, who then maybe ended up flying through the window. Well, it's a little bit more detrimental on a flight, maybe if it was the same level of turbulence, but there are people who decide not to fasten their seatbelts, and it is a time constraint to make sure each individual person is fastened. But now flight attendants can specifically look at who does not have their seatbelt fastened and make sure they attend to them rather than accidentally missing a few that may have not fastened their seatbelts. And this way, even if they unfasten it later, it's very simple to go back and correct these mistakes. So what we brought up with cars, there's a reason for that because this technology already exists. And that's what makes this product so cheap for us to actually be able to innovate and research with. Because the way a seatbelt works on both a flight and a car are both very similar. It's just a latch that holds onto one end, and together that's how you make sure a seatbelt is fastened. However, in a car, there is this minute part within the seatbelt itself that makes sure that it is connected. Now, flights are currently not using this technology. So while in a car, it's wired to make sure that it's telling you if you don't have your seatbelt fastened. On a plane, we're also going to be adding this Bluetooth technology, so that way it connects back to the attendants themselves and the personnel, and that way they can check, similar to a car itself, whether or not on the inside, whether or not this seatbelt is actually fastened. And that's why this product is so economical for us to be able to produce. So that's where we look at this Bluetooth technology, where if you look on the left, that is what a typical flight looks like. There are a lot of seats. So to have and go through and check each individual one takes a long time. And that's where even during turbulence, if we have flight attendants walking up and down the aisle, that puts themselves at risk. However, when personnel and attendants have this tablet on the right, and that can be using with an app that's already on a device that they already own, that's where it's going to be in a different color if someone doesn't have their seatbelt fastened. And that makes it so easy to see who exactly doesn't have their seatbelt fastened. And that's what makes it so innovative, but still so simple with this Bluetooth technology that already exists, but the buckle that also exists at the same time.
Okay, so now we're going to get into who are our target customers. We have two sets, our primary and our secondary. When we look to our primary target customers, they are going to be airplane companies because they are the ones who own the most airplanes currently in the market. By getting a hold of them, we can retrofit the existing airplanes with this new technology. Because of the system we have, it makes the system easy to install and easy to use, giving all the benefits to companies who have already purchased pre-existing planes. When we look to the secondary target customer, it is going to be airplane manufacturers. Our ultimate goal with airplane manufacturers is going to be to get a licensing agreement to get them to make our product an industry standard in future airplanes that are meant to be produced. By allowing them to do this, it is going to give them an edge when selling planes to companies because they have a competitive advantage, but it also allows us to sell our products to planes that are going to be in production currently or will be in the near future.
Well, what's our unique value proposition? Eliminate time-consuming procedures without sacrificing safety. So what we've brought forward thus far is not only are we making the actual passenger safer as well, but also the personnel on the flight, where time and time again, we see people putting themselves at risk to make sure each individual passenger has their seatbelt fastened. But now we're catering towards a company that in order to keep their own attendants safe, this is going to be in their best interest as well. But the fact of the matter is, our most unique value proposition is at the end of the day, this is such a simple solution that just doesn't exist. It is nowhere near in the area of production, and no one's even brought this idea to the table yet. And the idea that we're doing it at this point in the game is kind of baffling because while we thought this was revolutionary, the fact that no one else has brought this forward really comes to us that that's what makes it so profitable. The simplicity of the item, yet the lack of interest in the status quo, that means we're not competing with anyone for this position, which gives us a hold in this market overall.
When we look to our revenue streams, at the moment, we are only going to have one primary revenue stream, and that is going to be the initial sale and installation costs. When you look to the chart in the top left, that is going to be the price per seat, or PPS, as I like to call it. We charge the price per seat on a gradient scale. So the more you purchase, the less it costs per seat. We do this to incentivize those who already own pre-existing aircraft to increase their initial purchase orders to outfit more of their seats with our technology by giving them an incentive at a lower price point per seat. We can see that the number of seats ranges from 0 to 200 and then increases by approximately 200 per gradient after that. The initial price from 0 to 200 seats is going to be $2,000 per seat with an installation price of $500. While the companies also have the option of installing it themselves, it would be better directed coming from our own technicians that are better qualified to install our products. Now, let's look to the chart in the bottom right. Here we can see our revenue models. We are expecting approximately 1% growth per year. We are looking to install our products in approximately 261 airplanes. The seat revenue from installing products in 261 airplanes with an average seat per airplane ranging anywhere from 200 to up to 600, depending on the size of the aircraft, is going to be approximately $22.8 million. When we look at the installation revenue, it's going to be dependent on the amount that the customers purchase at once, but we are ranging that is going to be approximately $500,000. The gross revenue for the year is going to be about $23.3 million for the first year. As I previously said, we're expecting approximately 1% growth per year as we branch out to various airline manufacturers and hopefully get our product to be a standard within the aviation industry. Here we can see our cost structure. Our total startup cost is going to be approximately $1,040,000. The prototype is actually quite cheap because, as my partner Cynthia initially mentioned, the technology already exists. All we have to do is get a working prototype together and then outfit it into airplanes. So we have allotted $10,000 for a working prototype. We're looking at employing approximately 10 employees. That's going to come at a cost of around $671,000. We're not allotting a lot for advertising because a lot of our advertising is going to be going directly to these manufacturers. This is not something that a consumer is going to purchase on their own, so we can have very targeted advertising. We have allotted $100,000 for travel to get to various air shows around the countries to show our products off to the major manufacturers and companies. We also have allotted $100,000 for future research and development to make our software technologies more reliable for our customers and of course, provide upgrades for future revenue models, which is to be talked about later. Legal, we have approximately $50,000 allocated for various patent pending procedures, as well as any erroneous situations that could come up. In manufacturing, we have allotted $99,000 to get our tools and dies made and get manufacturing started. We expect that the percent growth in the company will be congruent with the amount we need to increase the budget by. So we should not be asking for any more money. We believe that the profits from the company should cover any future expenses needed, whether that be larger office spaces, more employees. So this will be the set amount as of now.
So the comparative advantage is quite simple. So it's simple and affordable to implement simply because the way that we are structuring our company right now, we are working directly with manufacturers and with airline companies themselves. So that means that while this is a worldwide market, that is a draw because that means there is a high demand for our product. But at the end of the day, it's simple and affordable to implement because there's nothing else like it on the market. Bring it to our next comparative advantage of unique and one of a kind on the market. There's simply nothing else like this right now. You can look it up and there really isn't. There is no one else competing with us. And by the time there is, that comes to our last competitive advantage of patent protection. Because when we are in the process of patenting our technology right now, that no one else can really compete with us in this market, that right now we're the only one entering it. And when we're not trying to put this item on display to everyone outside until we do have the adequate amount of funding necessary, there isn't so much of this wind behind it that other people are going to hear about it and be competing with us before we have this patent protection. So at the end of the day, we are winning on every single front in order for our product to be the most profitable possible.
Now we're going to jump right into our key metrics. We have 3 of them. The first and foremost being market size. As Cynthia mentioned in the previous slide, no one else makes a product like this. So at the current moment, we control 100% of the market space. That being said, with our patents, we will virtually eliminate the possibility of others imitating our product because the technology is very specific, and with a patent on it, it will prevent them from creating their own. The next segment we have is product testing. Like all good manufacturers, a select amount of these will be pulled from the line, tested to make sure they comply with current FAA seatbelt regulations in terms of strength, but then we will have additionally our own tests to ensure that they are strong enough and not only meet the FAA standards, but exceed them. Our third key metric is takeover interest, and that is the most interesting. Like all businesses, we would hope that companies, larger ones, would be interested in buying us out, seeing our value, and ultimately giving us a dollar amount to take over our company and incorporate it into theirs, whether that be Boeing or Airbus. We think that this is quite a realistic probability. All right, right now we're going to look at our proposal. What is it that we're asking for? Right now, we are asking for a $1 million investment for a 1% stake in the company. Currently, Cynthia's and I's personal investment will be $40,000. That will give us the $1,040,000 needed that we have estimated the initial startup to cost. The chart on the screen will show your return on investment as we go through the years. The first year, you can expect approximately $228,000 in return from your initial investment, and from there, we can see it growing exponentially.
So that's where we can say in the end, we do have the most profitable company possible. But seeing as we didn't have the privilege of being able to stand before you here today, we have put a QR code on the screen or this link that you can go to, and that provides a quick rundown of our product if you ever want to look back at it. And if you do want to get back to us later with a final decision. But at the end of the day, remember our product, air safe, and we're trying to make the skies just as safe as we have with the land.
Thank you all for listening to our presentation. We hope you consider investing.
Thank you.